Hello everyone, my name is Rae. I am the host and owner of Gem and Me. I want to take the time today to introduce myself. Who am I? I'm a young, proud, first-generation Latina born and raised in Washington Heights. I have excelled in my life with adversity, hope, belief, motivation, and most importantly, the power in me. And I believe everybody has their own power inside themselves. And I want to share this platform with you to be able to explore and dig very deep inside of you to find the blessings, the gifts that you were given to become the best version of yourself. So thank you so much for joining today to the Gem and Me podcast. I hope to give you blessings, aha moments, many gifts really that you have within yourself to be able to unfold and find those within you. Thank you for listening today and welcome to Gem to Me. The power is within you. Thank you everyone for tuning in today to Gem and Me, the podcast hosted by Rae. Today we have Rachel Nelson. She is holistic life and anxiety coach. She's also a breath work facilitator. So her journey started at the Wanderlust Festival in 2016, while Rachel was in a journey of overcoming overwhelming anxiety and grief. She experienced the relief of breathwork under a tent with 100 other people in the middle of Vermont. She had never felt more at ease in her body. Fast forward 6 years later, now she's a certified anxiety coach and breathwork facilitator. She has discovered the importance of the mind-body connection and supports clients on their journey to embodiment, mindfulness, and stress-free living. Hi, Rachel. Thank you so much for being here today. It's an honor to have you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to join you today and talk about all the things. So thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to get right into it. I know that, you mentioned that you experienced this ease at this festival, and that's kind of where your journey began with breathwork and anxiety, but I know that there's more to it, right? So in terms of like, I know everybody, including me, has anxiety. I feel like that's a norm and people don't really realize how common it is within us. But like, what was the main reason? I'm gonna get a little deep, if you let me. What was like the main reason of your anxiety and like your grief at the moment and to kind of push you to this journey?
Yeah, let's go deep. Let's do it. Thank you for asking. Yeah, to paint a picture of like what my life was looking like at that time, I had been struggling with anxiety since I was about 7 years old. And it kind of followed me throughout my life. Major milestones were big triggers for me, like graduating undergrad or graduating high school, graduating undergrad, things like that. And I always knew I wanted to help people. And so after I finished my undergrad, I got that in psychology. I went back for my master's in social work. And in my first semester of graduate school, my dad suddenly passed away. And any kind of loss is hard.
Sorry.
So that was the grieving part, the overwhelming grief. And about 3 weeks after that, I was in a relationship for 3 years, and he broke up with me, and so that was the heartbreak. And so
Oh,
my life
sorry.
kind of, thank you, yeah, my life kind of got flipped upside down in like 1 month. It was just one thing after the next, it felt like. And so I was really, at the time, I was already struggling with anxiety and overwhelm and just like extreme stress from balancing so much with graduate school, working, interning, taking classes. Like it's already so much that I was doing at that time. And then these life events happen, and it kind of just peaked even more. I didn't think I could get more anxious before, such significant loss in my life. And so that was my major trigger. And so that was even 6 months before I even went to this festival. I had called my one of my, like, best friends, and I was like, "I wanna go to this thing. I don't think anyone will go with me." And she's like, "Well, what is it?" And I was like, "It's this yoga festival. It's called Wanderlust. I really wanna go." She's like, "Let's go." And we bought our tickets, like, that weekend. And we had no idea that, like, at that time, I was it was the first time going to a festival like this, and it's amazing. It was, like, the highlight of my summer every summer. And I signed up for this breathwork class because the description was just so deep. It was like, overcome, intense grief, trauma, heartbreak. And I was like, oh my God, this is like what I need right now. And so I went to it with just like an open mind and open heart, and it was absolutely amazing. Um, and then fast forward, 6 years later, and here I am as a certified breathwork facilitator. I was actually certified through the same woman that I breathed with for the first time. So
Oh, wow,
I
that's
came full
amazing. Thank
circle.
you so much for sharing. I know it's so hard to like go deep and share, those hard times where you were vulnerable and you were going through a lot of stuff. I feel like I said before, anxiety has always been present in my life. I think up to recently, I kind of was more at ease. I think I would say probably this year, like because prior to that, I did a lot of like healing, a lot of trauma, like COVID, like I feel like COVID itself was a whole trauma. But before that, I was also dealing with a lot of things like healing my relationship with my mom and healing relationship with myself and finding myself. What do I want? I was also in grad school, which was 2020. I graduated 2020, and it was a sacrifice. Like that was like I think that was the first sacrifice that I could be like that was a sacrifice. I felt it like that.
Mhm.
And towards the end, I was just like, oh my God, I just want to finish. And that was a good thing because if I still wanted more education, I would probably be in my doctorate. But God was like, no, that's it. You had enough. and and I felt like it also like school sometimes was the cause of anxiety for me. But at the same time, it was kind of what kept me sane because I felt like it was the only area in my life that I had control over and that I could excel at as a student. And um yeah, it was like having control because as a younging, you don't have control over anything. And also I went through childhood traumas and things like that. So I felt like that was where I was like, yes, I'm like having A's and that could kind of, help
Yeah.
me. I used to bite my nails and I realized like as an adult now, looking back, that was a coping mechanism of anxiety because I was so anxious. I wanted to bite my nails. And it's crazy how you do certain things and you don't realize that it's connected to something, right? People were like, oh, why you bite your nails? I don't know, right? But like now looking back, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? um
Mhm.
and it's so, but like I feel like anxiety is so common, maybe like sharing what, since you're an expert now, how that comes up and like what it is and how common it is, because I think people don't really understand how common anxiety is for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing your experience with anxiety too. I agree. I think COVID and just this past year and graduate school, they are all factors that can contribute to anxiety. And now just working in this space of helping people as much as I can with anxiety, it really comes in so many different forms. Like you can be anxious about your work, you can be anxious about your health, you can be anxious about traveling, about relationships. I mean, the list goes on, and that's what's interesting about anxiety is like it can it can manifest in so many different areas of our lives
So true, yeah.
and affect other areas. So I was so anxious, but I found it I wasn't like I was so anxious in my personal life previously that it would affect my relationships the most. But I also found anxious at work and like anxious about school, and it's like there's so many different areas really. So today when I'm working with clients, we really, we start at the beginning. Like we start day one, like what was your first memory of anxiety? Because I find that a lot of times we are on our journeys, we're on our path, and we're feeling all these different things. You know, we're getting all these different, whether it's an emotion or a sensation or a thought, and immediately we're like, oh my God, I'm feeling, oh, it's anxiety. Oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. It's anxiety. But sometimes it's like excitement, or sometimes it's just um
Wow,
like overwhelming emotion of gratitude. Like it could be the exact opposite of anxiety. And it's like we just label it as anxiety because we're like, oh, I'm feeling something. I'm anxious. And it's like we start at the beginning, and there's definitely like a spaciousness, a lot of exploring to move forward and see like what is this anxiety. I think for everybody it's different. I think everybody has different triggers, different lived experiences, and really getting to that root cause of anxiety gives you that freedom to figure out what you're actually feeling, because sometimes it might not even be anxiety.
wow, that's so deep. I never really saw it that way, right? Because I feel like anxiety could be very easy to identify, but you're right. And sometimes you might feel excited or happy or nervous, would kind of segue into anxiety, but it's like fear, like so many emotions that are labeled as anxiety. So thank you so much for bringing that up. That's very helpful. I know that, like I said, like past experiences or traumatic events could, increase your anxiety because it kind of builds up and it's
Mhm.
like something that is hard to separate from. And it could become into
Absolutely.
fear and depression and other, things. So it's hard to contain emotion, right? But I feel like anxiety is an emotion, but it could also be talked to, like from like you could talk to it and kind of decrease it from a sort, right? Like if you're in the moment, you're very anxious about, you know, a test, for example, right? You can be like, oh, like, I'll study, I got this, I already put in the work, I'm gonna do fine. Like kind of talk yourself into it to kind of alleviate it. And I know like as a pattern, you can also do certain rituals or things. For example, I know you do breath work. I know you use that as a form of like to decrease your anxiety, right? And so what do you, I know you mentioned, right? Like there's different ways, it could be excitement and doesn't have to be anxiety. What would be like, okay, like that's anxiety. Like what is something that you can, how could you distinguish?
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a great question. I think using what I would call sensation association, and also emotional inclusivity. So sensation association is really taking the time to pause and check in with your body. I think a lot of times we spend our time in our minds, but check in with your body. And when you're in those anxious moments, like what is happening in your body? Do you have like a racing heart? Do you have pressure on your shoulders? Do you have a headache? Do you have racing thoughts? Like what is this sensation that you're feeling? And what is the association that you're making with that sensation? So, and this could also go for when you're feeling safe. Like when you feel most safe, or when you think of a moment where you felt the most safe in your life, and you get really deep into that moment. Like, what were you wearing? What was the weather outside? What are you doing? Who are you with? Are you by yourself? Are you hiking? Like, what does that look like? Where do you feel that in your body? And how can you turn it up a notch? So you can do it with both sensations, like safety, but also when you're in those moments um, that anxiety might be coming up. And then emotional inclusivity is this idea that there's no such thing as like being like wrong or like bad or emotions that we don't want, whether that's even like rage, anger, jealousy, like these emotions that we kind of just brush under the rug or like don't want to feel, because obviously we want to feel good. That's the idea. So emotional inclusivity is this kind of like radical acceptance for all emotion. So for even your anxious parts, even your part that use the example of like if you're anxious about a test. I love this example because if you're feeling anxious about a test, there's probably something deeper there. My first thought is fear of failure. You obviously want to do good on the test. Like you don't want to fail the
Right.
test. So you're feeling anxious because really your fear is that you might fail. And that's such a innate human, like, honor that feeling, like, so real, inner child, like, so much love sent to your inner child that, like,
Yes.
really doesn't wanna fail. Like, who wants to fail? Obviously, we all wanna succeed and feel good. So, emotional inclusivity is this idea that, um, really including, like, the full scope of emotion. All emotion gets to be here. There is no wrong. You're not doing anything wrong, or you're not bad because you're feeling anxious or sad or fearful or angry. It's not necessarily bad. And with this shift of, like, just bringing the awareness of emotional inclusivity, it alleviates that friction of, like, pushing these emotions or these feelings away. And it kind of, you can really relax into what you're actually experiencing.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it really puts it into perspectives of like really embracing, right, what you're feeling, trying to not control emotions, but like the anxiety, be able to kind of think about it and like look at it from another perspective. But yeah, the test really, you went deep there with like, you don't want to fail. And I feel like that's like our common fear as humans, right? We never want to fail. And it's something that even not the test, but like life, right? Fail at life, fail at work, career, whatever it is that you're doing. So it kind of connects to everything. But I know that, anxiety really hinders a lot of our success and productivity because we kind of go through the anxiety or avoid certain things because we don't want the anxiety. So I kind of want you to kind of talk a little bit about how anxiety hinders like our productivity and our success, because I'm pretty sure your clients kind of like, oh, I don't want to do this because I know I'm gonna go through something.
Yeah, I think it's so real, we're programmed to try and keep ourselves safe and to listen, and so listen to what's happening. And so sometimes when we're listening to maybe our anxiety, it's actually not necessarily our intuition. And so building that muscle of, like, is this my fear that's speaking? Is this my anxiety that's speaking? Or is this my intuition? And I always like to give the example of, like, a visual of, like, you're driving the car, or yeah, like, you're driving the car through life, and, like, which part of you is in the driver's seat? Is it
Mm.
your inner child, your inner teen, your divine mother, your divine father, your higher self, your inner witness? Like, we have all of these parts of ourselves, and it's, like, so human for all of them to come online at all different times. So in those moments, like, who's driving the car? Is it
Wow,
your
that's
most
deep.
anxious self, or is it, can you find that part of you that just, like, has, like, unconditional love for yourself, just, like, pure unconditional love in any form of who you are? Are they driving the are they driving the car?
Yeah.
What would they do? Where would they go?
Wow. I never really saw it like that. Like these are gems. Thank you so much for sharing. Because sometimes we go through different phases or right, and it could be diagnosed as, personality disorder. You have like 10 different people inside of you, right? But it really is like a spiritual kind of dissection, like you said, right? Of like you have certain types of domains in you and you can kind of switch the hat and be like, like, okay, I'm feeling sad, but you know what? I'm gonna cheer myself up, like I got this, right? And kind of switching the narrative. So I think that's very great way to put it. Like, okay, you can switch it up. But yeah, it's definitely being aware of those things because I feel like sometimes you wake up and you're not really having a good day or you're like having the morning blues or whatever it is, right? You're like, oh, feeling sorry for yourself, right? And you're like, sometimes, being able to jump up and be like, no, I'm gonna put some music on, I'm gonna get doing the chores. Like, this is not gonna be how my day is gonna turn out. So I feel like awareness and being able to snap out of it is so important because of course the feelings are gonna come, the anxiety is gonna come. You just have to kind of have a strategy to kind of push it over and like, get it going basically. Do you have any like tips and tricks to like
avoid or decrease your anxiety or control it really?
Yes. I've found that because anxiety was something that I was struggling with for the longest time every day, like every single day I was waking up with anxiety. I had this revelation. It's like if I'm feeling anxious every day, why am I not doing something for myself every day to ease my anxiety? And from that moment, it turned into a daily practice for me. Um, that could look like journaling, breath work, meditation, taking your dog for a walk in the morning, listening to your favorite music, music that calms you down or music that empowers you, having like scents that in your house, like whether that's candles or a diffuser that ease your anxiety. Um, and it might sound simple. I mean, my go-to practice is breath work. I love that. But it once I made it into a daily practice of something I was doing every day, even if it was 5, 10, 20 minutes, an hour, it will make all the difference. Like if this is something you're dealing with every day and it's a struggle that you have every day, like do something every day to ease that feeling, whatever that need is, whether it's calmness or movement or, speaking with somebody, like invest in a coach or a therapist or a facilitator that you trust and you feel safe with. These little things every day will make the biggest difference.
No, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, something that I've been doing now is I used to like journal here and there. I have bad experience with journaling. I used to have a diary and I got exposed by my mother, so I stopped. But um journaling it is a good thing, like writing down your thoughts, how your day was, how you feel, your goals or things that you have in your mind. I know that seeking support, like you mentioned, like from a professional or it could be a family friend, right? I think that's very important because sometimes we kind of isolate ourselves when we're going through things, and that's not healthy. The breath work, definitely. Attended one of your workshops and I really loved it. I would love to like attend to more, and we will probably, have that
Yeah.
in-person breathwork workshop for our audience to go to. Something that I've been also implementing and as part of the self-love journey is having self-care time, right? So like a long shower, a lit candle and some jazz in the background, or like meditation, or like going for a facial, going for massage, whatever it is, like something like an act of love to yourself or like
Yeah.
caring for yourself. I think that's so powerful because you feel like, relaxed, and it's like, okay, you're filling your cup, right? And awareness of your emotions, which you already covered, right? Because sometimes you're like, okay, this is happening, like comes up is a constant trigger, but if you're aware of it, you could control it or kind of diminish it a bit, right? Because you're like, okay, this is coming up again. Like, I see you, but this is, I'm fine, right? Because it kind of becomes a habit where you're always anxious, right?
Mhm.
It kind of becomes part of you, and then you kind of have to be aware of it and kind of, okay, yeah, like this is not serving me. Because it also affects, I feel like it affected, I've been anxious all my life. Last year I was stressed and anxious and probably depressed. And I was diagnosed with ulcers, right? And then when I was diagnosed with ulcers, I'm like, crap, like this is my body screaming, like, you gotta like take care of yourself. You gotta really pay attention. Um, and I was like, okay, like I have to start eating now. I have to like relax. At the time, I had 2 jobs and I had to like, okay, make a decision. Like I was overworking my body and just overstressing myself. Um, so like making those decisions, okay, like I should kind of take it down a notch, right? And relax and meditate. And so it's so important. Thank you so much for sharing that. Another thing, like that I would say, like from your experience, I know you mentioned that breath work really has helped you, but like overall, the bigger picture, like what benefits do you think that like anxiety control and ease will have, like in someone's life or in your life per se?
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all of that too. Just sharing about how it's a habit. Having that like automated nervous system response in your body is so real. And I think there's a lot of people, myself included, that have been walking around feeling anxious for a majority of their life, and knowing that you can change that response in your body, that's possible. So I've done it, it's possible. You can recondition your body to have a different response. Um, yeah, so thank you so much for sharing that. And there was something else that you said that I wanted to talk about, but I can't remember it right now. But that was great. So sorry, can you what was the question again? I
The,
miss.
yeah, the question was, what benefits do you think anxiety control and ease could like have in in your body and life
Yeah,
overall, like the bigger picture? Um, yeah.
such a great question. I see with a lot of the clients that I work with, everybody has different passions. I've worked with some that are, starting their own businesses, and so it's overcoming this anxiety looks like for them, putting themselves out there vulnerably and authentically, having, boundaries with family members. I've also worked with some clients that are like young mothers. They might have more, like one new baby or two kids or a few kids, and being a parent brings up a lot of different stressors, and taking time for yourself can be one of the hardest things, and making time for that self-care. So I've seen with those clients having more confidence at work, being able to prioritize time for themselves so they can balance work and being a parent. It's a challenge. Um, so I've just seen like benefits that are bigger than what people come to me for. They come to me for one thing, but they walk away with stronger boundaries, more time for what really matters to them, confidence at work, a sense of calmness, a different relationship to anxiety. Because I think that's what it's all about. I think it's not getting rid of these anxious parts and like just burying them. It's treating them with so much love and awareness, and uh, changing that relationship. Yeah, changing that relationship to anxiety. So that's what it's really about.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your clients, experience. And it's true. I feel like once you address something, it kind of domino effects of like, you know, it touches every part of your life, right? All of a sudden more calm. All of a sudden, you're more braver or like have more courage or it kind of, yeah, it feeds off everything. So that's is a huge topic that sometimes I don't think we talk about enough, really, of how common and how prevalent it is in our culture now, right? With everything that is going on, and like we're constant on like flight or a fight kind of response, right? And it's hard to kind of digest everything that's going on around us that obviously we can't control, right? We can only control what we feel and how we react to certain things. We can't control what other people do. We can't control what the world is doing or what's going on. Um, and I feel like that's also part of like being at ease with anxiety. Like, oh, we get anxious about certain things that are going on. Yeah, but you can't control it, so it's gonna keep on happening, right? Or you can control what that person is doing towards whoever or towards you or whatever. Like you can't control other people or what's going on. You can only control like internal feelings or yeah, how you feel about things. Thank you so much. I feel so honored and happy that we had this conversation. It's going to be amazing. Everybody's going to love it. I wanted to give you a chance to kind of share your handles, see where people could follow you, contact you if they would like to, connect with you.
Yes, thank you so, so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Thank you.
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active, or TikTok, at Rae the Anxiety Coach. Um, and if you're interested in just staying connected, or I host different workshops throughout the month and I have different offers, you can always DM me, and subscribe to my newsletter.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm also going to add your handles in the bottom, the show notes of the podcast and the and YouTube channel too, so people have access to it and they can reach out to you if they have any questions or or like your services for sure. But yeah, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I really am so happy that we had this conversation because it's so important to me, and I feel like I haven't really seen a lot of points that you brought up, and I really learned a lot. So thank you so much for sharing and being here with me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I am so grateful that you're here listening to my podcast, Gem and Me. I hope that you continue to share, continue to listen on very important topics that I discuss in my growth and journey to what is called life. I hope that you're able to learn and explore different values and things that you have within you. I really hope to serve as a support system and a community to those who need the inspiration in that community, because I know that I needed this, I still do, but like growing up, I felt like I needed something where I can, see the examples and have a support system. So I hope to serve as such. Thank you for listening and have a great one.